Welcome to Indianapolis, and as we often say here when we have a gathering, delegates, start your engines. Because those of you from out of town, if you don't know a great deal about the city of Indianapolis, perhaps the most noted thing is the Indianapolis 500 Speedway. The track is not so far away from here. Those of you who are runners, we have a 25,000 person mini marathon every May, of which one of the distinguishing features is you start downtown and you run out and you run around the Speedway track and then come back. And having done that, I can say it's very disheartening because the Speedway is halfway through the mini marathon and they have the big Jumbotron screens out there. So as you're rounding halfway, you're seeing the Kenyans are crossing the finish line. But it's one of the great parts of Indianapolis. We're here at Indiana University, Purdue University of Indianapolis, a campus that's jointly managed and operated by both universities. As you can see, we're very much a part of the city of Indianapolis, bounded by the river on one side and the city on the other side. This campus broke 30,000 in attendance for the first time this year, and it's relatively a baby in university terms, only 40 years old. A few historic buildings nearby, Madam Walker's Theater, who was a young African-American entrepreneur and became quite a legend in this city. The medical research program here, very involved with cancer as one of the core focuses of the medical school. Just down the street, about 2 blocks, is our building. I'm the Vice President for Information Technology and CIO here, and this is our building, the data center underneath it, and staff here in the offices above. And this building is sister to facilities in Bloomington. We'll be moving into a new hardened data center there, and we're hoping that we have no spring tornadoes before we get moved into that hardened facility down there. As we gather for this workshop, I will say it's been about 18 months in the making, and that began with a conversation I had with Dan Atkins, who asked a few questions about how we were doing software sustainability in some other projects that we were involved with. And one thing led to another, and it enabled us to set up to have this workshop. Part of what I think is the area that we're going to cover goes very much back to someone that we respect greatly around here, and that is Herman B. Wells. He was president of Indiana University from 38 to 63. His name is revered. He's the one who transformed the university from an okay Midwestern university to one very involved on the international stage. And I want to share with you just a few excerpts from a Herman Wells inauguration speech in 1938. And I think it's very apropos to what we're talking about here today. In the remarks of his speech, he made the comment about coordination and cooperation. And he says it's incumbent upon the university not only to husband or to gather its own resources, but to participate in any plan which would gather the total resources for higher education in Indiana. It seems to me, therefore, that there is no reason why institutions in this state might not assume a position of national leadership in developing cooperatively a plan for higher education which would ensure the elimination of unnecessary and overlapping and duplication and allow each institution to draw upon the specialized facilities of the others. More important, the successful operation of the plan would mobilize the resources for higher education, and in doing so would provide the maximum benefit for our youth and society. In the development of such a plan, Indiana University should be ready to make any necessary adjustments in its own program, deterred neither by tradition nor by institutional pride. And it's interesting to think in the day when transportation was not all that well developed, that Herman Wells saw that the future was not only within the campus of building a great institution, but it was beyond the campus, and partnerships And Herman Wells, some of you know the group called the CIC, the Committee on Institutional Cooperation, which is the Big Ten universities plus the University of Chicago. He was a co-founder of that over 50 years ago. And so I think this idea that research and education advance better by collaboration and cooperation, he was really at the forefront of thinking about that. In his book called Being Lucky, he reflects back that it had always been his belief that the aspirations of research and education and the mission of the university were so great and the resources for doing them so modest that he had to make every attempt possible to stamp out inefficiency or duplication that was not productive towards those goals. And I think it is in that spirit that we gather today to think about software and cyber infrastructure and the future of how that enables science. So welcome to Indianapolis. I think we have a great workshop lined up. I hope some of you had time to look at some of the position papers that were written. We made those available electronically. You've now got them in hard copy. I've told the greatest merit of that entire process was the 3-page limit on the papers, which allows you to skim pretty fast and see the main point of advocacy that each person has in their position papers. We are very much planning a workshop, and that is lots of conversation. There are some presentations. We'll kick off with 2 this morning, but then the bulk of the time that we have here is in topically focused breakout groups to really try to crack, first of all, to mutually understand the problem space that we're working on, and then to try to crack that space in a little bit more depth. You each received a tent card when you checked in. I think it's too small to help much in looking around the room right now, but I think it will be helpful when we move into breakout sessions and you're talking with others, so be sure to take those with you when we move. I believe it's worthwhile to kick off with a round of introductions. So we'll start over here in the far corner. If you could stand and speak clearly and name and where you're from. Good. Dave? And formerly of Indiana University, I have to add an asterisk. Only to those from West Lafayette. John Campbell from Purdue University. Very good. And I think we have a few folks in the corner. You guys want to make introductions? Okay. Okay, have we got everyone? Well, I think that round of introductions was purposefully telling. We have folks who are deeply involved in programming applications. We have folks involved in middleware and lower layer services. We have I guess we could actually refer to the proper evil empire, the CIOs and the suits from the campuses. Some of them here. We have funding agencies. I'm delighted to see some of our international colleagues here from Australia, the UK, other places. I'm pleased to see Mackenzie and Cliff here, others with libraries, some people who are involved in teaching and learning software, some people who are involved in high-performance computing software. But the software as an artifact, and a challenging artifact, is really what pulls us together for this workshop today. So we are grateful to the National Science Foundation for choosing to sponsor this workshop, and it is our intent to swiftly, did you hear that word? Swiftly produce a paper out of this that will summarize the workshop, pull together some of the thoughts, the challenges, the trade-offs, to go back and answer some of the questions that we face about software sustainability. And we're going to try to do that, like I say, as quickly as we can. So you noticed a number of attendees here from Indiana University and the Pervasive Technology Institute. When we go to breakout sessions, we've got a breakout session leader for each one. The sessions will give a little more introduction to them at an appropriate time. But we've also got a scribe, note taker to listen in the sessions, not taking an exact transcript, but more capturing the heart of the debate and the thoughts and the challenges that are going on. So we hope we've got a broad enough capture mechanism working throughout the entire workshop that can help us turn the thoughts, the debates, the trade-offs, the discussions, even domain differences possibly between high-performance computing and the needs of libraries, the needs of teaching and learning software, or very narrow application software for a particular discipline, can help turn that into a set of coherent principles, challenges, things to work on for the future. So I really want to drive home the point that we want to be outcome-oriented in our discussions. The second thing, which I suspect with this group needs no prodding, but I want to say it anyway, we need to use our time wisely. So while all conversation should obviously have courtesy and professional respect, if you've got something to say, say it. We really can't afford to take a day and a half with the cost and the challenges of convening this breadth of folks and not lay things on the table that need to be discussed. We really want to call out the moose on the table, say what needs to be said, poke at the soft underbelly of the problem, and with professional respect, engagement, and debate, work through it a little bit. So at the reception last night, there were a number of remarks that I thought were pretty telling. One was, we probably have to spend some time this morning and in the early sessions of the breakouts just ensuring that we're even talking about the same thing. As I came for the reception last night, there was a sign at the bottom of the staircase and it said sustainability workshop, or maybe just said sustainability, and it pointed up. And with Earth Hour coming up this weekend, and folks very tightly associating sustainability with environmental concerns right now, I didn't know who all we would draw for the reception with just a sign that said sustainability. So when we talk about software sustainability, what do we even really mean? And I suspect that's part of what we're going to have to work through while we're here. But what I don't want to do is end the workshop having had a very broad-ranging discussion, poked at a lot of things, explored some crevices, and we all get on the plane or the car and we go home and go, yeah, that is a problem. I suspect we already know that or you wouldn't be here. So we know we've got a problem, and the one thing that I would like to take off the table is no matter what we work through, no matter how brilliant our conversations today, I doubt we can come up with a plan to revise tenure. Okay? So it seems all discussions often lead back to some notion of we just need to change the way tenure works. I don't think that's one that even the NSF can take on in the near term. So let's try to focus when we get to the end, which may be a conversation about what are you willing to give up in order to get something? What behaviors would change among you and your project in our institution? Because fundamentally, at the end of this, we are going to be talking about some behavior changes. If everything was working hunky-dory, then we could all just continue with what we're doing. But it will require some behavior changes, possibly with the federal funding agencies, possibly within the projects for principal investigators, possibly across scientific communities and distributed research teams, possibly in how we even think about what is a virtual organization and the components and the way we manage things within a virtual organization. So please put deeply in your mind that the outcomes of changing the current state into something different most likely will require behavior change from programmers, from funding agencies, from campuses, from principal investigators, from graduate assistants. What are some of those behavior changes that may be necessary to take us to the next step? So with that, I open by introducing our first speaker. I suspect for many of you, Jennifer Schonk from the National Science Foundation needs no introduction at all. She received her doctorate from UCSD from a little-known faculty member named Fran Bierman. I